Here's a very easy strategy for you if you want to become rich, because achieving wealth is straightforward. All you have to do is to follow the habits of the rich and avoid the habits of the poor. That's it. What we think and feel is going to show up in that we do. That we do, that's our habits. So you look at the habits of the poor, how they think and feel, in other words, why they do what they do, don't do that. And then you look at the rich, and you see how they think and feel, because it's in what they do, and then you keep on doing what they're doing. It's very simple. So maybe let's dive a little bit deeper into it, and let me give you a couple of examples to make it fun and to make it more practical. One of the first differences will be that the rich always invest in themselves. And basically they do that first. In other words, their personal development. And that personal development is not only in terms of their mindsets, their belief systems and stuff like that, but also in terms of income, money, business, investments. Now, Warren Buffett says that the best investment that you can make is an investment in yourself. Now, if a guy like Warren Buffett, that I think knows a thing or two about making money, if he says something, then maybe we should pay attention. You see, the more skills you're going to get, the more ability you'll have in order to earn. And the more you earn, the more you can invest. And therefore, you're going to find that the rich will become richer and the poor normally becomes poorer. Simply because the poor are not prepared to develop their skills. They're not prepared to develop themselves. They're not prepared to learn the mindset skills in order to control the 6 higher faculties of the mind powers that they've got. Because it's too much effort to do it. And the poor, therefore, is going to come up with a ton of excuses always. And the biggest excuse is, yeah, but I haven't got the money in order to do a course or to get a mentor or to get a coach or to get a consultant or to learn more about myself because it's costing money. And it's a lame excuse. Because if you look at the first generational wealth builders, you're going to find that each and every time those people start with nothing. But the first thing that they've learned is, unless they get their mindsets right and they learn the skills, they will not get there. Nowadays with Google and with YouTube, it's very simple. There is nothing that you cannot learn that is not for free. Of course, you can speed up the process by getting consultants and getting mentors and getting coaches. But if you are serious, when I started, there was no Google. There was no internet. I had to figure this out for myself. And I started with absolutely nothing. In fact, less than nothing. But I understood right in the beginning, 1982, I understood that if I am not prepared to put in the time and the effort to learn the skills, I'm not going to get anywhere in my life. Another difference between the rich and the poor is that the rich will always have multiple incomes. They never ever rely on a single income. And this is one of the things that Warren Buffett also says. He says you cannot rely on a single income. But this is exactly what poor people are doing. They rely on a job. There's no security, but they believe that that job is their security. And therefore, they're going to cling on to their job at all costs, instead of learning new skills to supplement that so that they do not have to rely on that job, or learn investment strategies where that investment is going to start giving you the income. You don't have to give up your job. You don't have to give up that security. But the moment that you know how to invest, those investments are going to start pumping money and pumping income. And that is what you need to do. But the poor are not going to do that because they do not believe that they've got the ability to do that, because they don't understand that this is a skill and that you can learn any skill. So any skill is learnable and transferable. But there's a condition, and the condition is that you must be willing to learn. So no mentor or teacher can teach you anything unless you are willing to learn and to implement it in your life. The rich also understands the difference between an asset and a liability. The poor thinks, for example, that the best car that they can afford is a great investment. Or they believe this nonsense that your house is a great investment. Your house, my friend, is one of the worst investments that you can ever make, but the poor cling onto that belief system because they do not want to put in the time and the effort to find out the truth. I've got courses and I've got free master classes to prove and to show you, and there's a ton of information on the internet and on YouTube that I'm spreading out to teach people how this stuff works. But they are not interested in that because in their belief systems, they think it's a great investment. They think their investment is like a unit trust or a pension fund or a provident fund. My friend, that is not investment. That is part of your saving. The rich knows that an asset is something that produces an income and that will do that year in and year out. The rich also understands the difference between immediate gratification and deferred gratification. What do I mean with that? Deferred gratification is if you are willing to take the responsibility to learn the skills and to put in the time and the effort in order to get to, say, for example, a house. They're not going to buy the house immediately. They're going to find a way where they can get that house by paying the price for that house, for example, without going to the bank. The poor says, no, I want that house now. In other words, they go to university, they get a degree or they get a job. The moment that they've got that job, guess what they do? First of all, they make sure that they've got a credit card, right? So that they can buy the nice clothes and furniture and stuff like that. Immediate gratification. Secondly, they're going to go for a nice car, the biggest car that they can possibly afford. And now they say, I've got a house. The poor has got nothing. And the reason why they've got nothing, it does not belong to them. In other words, they haven't earned the right to have the house and the car because they want it now. And 90% of the time, it's a show. They want to show other people that they're successful. You're not successful. Don't bluff yourself. You're not successful if you haven't earned the right to have that you've got. And this is the mentality of the poor, is I want it now. I'm not going to wait for it. And that causes them to stay poor because they are stealing their future, but they don't know it. And they're giving their future to the government and to the financial institutions by listening to other people instead of relying on themselves, taking the responsibility to earn the right to have that they want. Now, let's get to the investment story, because your investment is actually very important, and there are different ways to invest. But there's a core part that rich people understand and poor people don't get. So there's a difference between saving your money and investing your money. An investment simply means that after tax and after inflation, that you are moving forward. But there's a formula that you need to follow and that you need to get right. And that is your investment growth rate must be higher than your financial freedom growth rate. What do I mean with that? Let me explain. When we start, we've got nothing. We've got you've got a job and you've got maybe 1,000 rand. But in 10 years' time, you want to be in a position where you can say, I'm rich. Say, for example, 10 million, 100 million, whatever your criteria for rich will be. Now you start working backwards. You say, okay, 10 years, I need to get the skill in order to be there. What growth must I get on the money that I've got available today? That becomes your financial freedom growth rate. Now, for the first time, you've got a benchmark. You've got something to measure. If you cannot measure, you can't manage the process. You can't manage this personal development process that you have to go through. The poor doesn't know this. The chances are 99.999% that they've never heard about this little formula. Your IGR must be bigger than your FFGR. So when is it an investment? The moment that you are outperforming your financial freedom growth rate, that is the moment that it becomes an investment. And the only way that that can happen is when you become the investor. In other words, you do that because you've got the skill. The moment that you rely on someone else to be able to do it for you, you will never beat and outperform this little, your IGR must be bigger than your FFGR. They're going to tell you it's a 40 years, 45 years, then retire, lower your standard of living and stuff like that. It's simply not the truth, but because it's part of their belief system, that is what they believe. And therefore, they're going to do subconsciously what they believe because they don't understand how to use the 6 higher faculties of the mind, because no one has taught them that. Another difference between the rich and the poor is the rich understands the difference between committed and interested. Now, if you are interested in something, you are going to keep on doing what is convenient to you. The moment that something happens that rattles you a little bit, a poor person is going to fall back and say, no, this is not for me. And I see it so many times. People start with a course and then they jump to another course and then they follow another mentor and then they follow another mentor. And they never take the responsibility to internalize the things that they are busy learning because they don't want to learn the skills. Because you see, they are not committed, they are interested. And therefore they do what is convenient. And therefore they will always, always, always come up with stories and excuses. Always. I've never met a poor person in my life that hasn't got an excuse for not being rich. You see, Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, says that you can have results or you can have excuses, but you can't have both. Let's bring this back to money. You can make money or you can make excuses, but you cannot have both. Both is not, it's either that or that. It's the difference between I'm interested or I'm committed. The choice is always yours, no one else. The moment that you say it's someone else's fault, it's a bank that's not giving me the money, it's I haven't got the money to do a course, I haven't got the money to learn how to generate income. It's a lie. I started my first business from a boarding school in Rustenburg in grade 8. Now, if someone like myself with no education, with no background, can do something like that, because I started relying on my resourcefulness. And this is what rich people do. They rely on themselves to develop the skills and become resourceful by applying and using the 6 higher faculties of the mind. Now, if you don't know what the 6 higher faculties or the 6 higher powers of the mind is, I suggest that you start looking this up and go and do a Google search. Now, here's the trick. The poor is not going to do that because it's too much effort. And then the excuses are gone. You see, they cling onto these excuses for dear life because otherwise they have to do something. And they are not willing to pay the price in order to earn the right to deserve riches. To become rich is a process, my friend. It is not something that just happened. You may be lucky to inherit money, but that money is going to be gone within one generation, sometimes in a couple of years, if you do not have the underlying skills to be able to keep that money and grow that money. The poor also are going to allow their limited beliefs and habits to control them. And therefore, they're going to do what is easy and convenient. And we see this on a day-to-day basis because the masses are poor. They're not rich. And the poor does not want sometimes to hear this stuff because they can complain and they can get friends that complain. They literally go to parties in order to complain. I've seen when there's a bribe, when people start complaining about how bad it goes and how bad the economy is, they literally form cliques in order to enhance how they are suffering. We are living in a weird society. Now, I'm trying to make this light, but it's not light. It's not, this is serious stuff if you want to become successful in life. Now, on the other hand, we're going to find that the rich are committed. They are committed to become rich. In The Formula for Riches, a book that I've wrote, we start with your intent. If you do not have the intent, you will not make it. Because your intent is going to be tested by your belief systems. And your belief system is what keeps the masses poor. You see, in our mind, we've got a reticular activated system. Our subconscious mind controls us without us knowing it. In other words, that little system that we've got, if you've got a belief system, whatever that belief system is, that little RAS machine that you've got is going to delete, store, generalize, add information to line up with that you believe. In other words, if you believe it's difficult to make money and that you must have money to make money, you'll only see that in your environment. That's what you're going to pick up. And then you're going to confirm, but that is the truth. And the more times you're going to confirm that it's truth, the stronger this belief system is going to become. It turns into a value and it becomes a part of the way that people act and do and feel. So we have to break that belief system, but they don't know how to do it because they don't know how to tap into that power that they've got, because they don't want to learn that. Therefore, they've got these blind spots. So rich people are going to do and take action in spite of the doubts and the fears, because the doubts and the fears are that keeps the poor from not doing something. And we all have them, right? And therefore, the rich are prepared to upgrade their mindset, because that's where everything starts. If you do not get rid of these limited beliefs and know of ways how to overcome them and to tap into that power that you've got, it's not going to happen. Everything is about skill sets. The will is skill set. To focus is a skill set. To have imagination is a skill set. And you can learn how to have a great and a vivid imagination. And that then is going to relate to action sets. In other words, your habits, and we started off basically with habits. You form the right habits and you continue that on a day-to-day basis, even in the beginning if you do not get results. You continue with that because you know that is the path that you need to do in terms of personal development in order to grow and to become the best version of yourself. And then also, the rich understands that you have to choose to let go of anything that is keeping you back or holding you back in life. It's a choice. Life is a choice, my friend. And the only person that can make that choice will be you or me. No one else can make that decision on your behalf. By the way, this is something that few people want to hear, is the universe is working in a perfect way. We are the perfect representation of all the choices that we've made in the past. All those choices led to where we are. So if we're in a position where we've got abundance, it's because we've made tons of abundant little choices. If we're in a state of poverty or lack, it's because we've made tons of choices that has led to where we are. And by taking responsibility over your actions in the past, it's the only way to start making changes in your life, because now we understand that the choices that I'm going to make today will give me the outcome of tomorrow. We call it the law of cause and effect. Something else that the rich understand is about risk management. The poor doesn't understand it because they're going to go to someone else, and that person is going to cover themselves by saying, we have to do a risk profile for you, ask a lot of questions to see if you're a low risk person in terms of your investment, a medium or a high risk taker. And then according to that, they're going to structure a portfolio and say, okay, this is how you must invest your money. We'll do it for you. And of course, they're going to get a commission. And then you think that you're an investor, but you're not an investor. Why not? Because that growth can't give you more, and you cannot learn the skills to offset the risk and to get a higher growth. So that's the way that they operate. But the rich has got a total different attitude towards risk, because the rich understand that risk is when you do not understand or when you do not know what you're doing. Now, what does it mean? It means that the moment that I'm giving my money to someone else, thinking that they're going to make me rich, in that moment, I'm taking 100% risk. I can't take more than 100% risk. So all the risk is with me. So that whole idea where they say they'll do a risk profile for you to determine falls away because you are taking all the risk. So the way to offset risk is by having the skills, the 4 value skill sets that you have to learn. The choice is yours if you're going to do it. And if you do it, you have to do it in the right order, because to become successful is a progressive realization of a worthy goal. That's why you need to know what your freedom number is going to be and when you're going to be rich. But you don't have to wait till then. You can become successful today, the moment that you know my financial freedom growth rate is 60% or 65 or 100%. And I can get more than 100% currently on a very small base. I am successful. I am in the process. I'm stepping into success by doing that I need to do, the habits that I have to do today. And the moment that we do that, now we start offsetting that risk by learning the skills that is going to help us to become the person that we need to be in order to make that goal our reality, that freedom number. So rich people are prepared to take the responsibility, and they're not going to give their money to someone else, because they know by doing that, They cannot learn the skills to identify the risks that are involved. And it's a risk that kills their investment. And then because the moment that I identify the risk, now I can learn the skills to offset or to mitigate that risk. And by doing that, immediately my growth goes up, but now I can learn the skills in order to get the growth. So if I give my money to a unit trust manager, I've got no control over what they are going to do with that money. No. The same with a pension fund, provident fund, endowment policy, any one of those investments where you give your money away to someone else, you are out of control and therefore you are taking full risk. And we need to understand it. And this is where a big problem comes in, because there are shysters out there. They understand that people are psychologically, they don't want to take the responsibility to do something and they are looking for a quick fix. So what do they come up with? We call it a Ponzi scheme. They come up with, you give us $4,000 and we give you every 60 days $4,000 back for the rest of your life. And people are falling for that. The moment that someone says that they can do something for you, why the heck will they do that if they know how to do it themselves? They want your money, my friend, because your money is gone the moment that you're giving it. And the poor, because of this greed, in other words, that immediate gratification, that's the reason why they step into schemes like this. And then they cry the moment that it doesn't work, because now I can blame someone else for not being successful. The rich are proactive the whole time. They live what we call a conscious life, especially when it comes to money and finances and business and investments and stuff like that. The poor always live a reactive life, a subconscious life, where their environment controls them. Let me give you a very practical example. We call it tax. Every government that I know of is going to grind you and they're going to keep you back. In other words, we as human beings have got a very, very hostile environment that we're in. The moment that you start making money, someone else is going to try to get that money, even if they have to form laws in order to get that money from you. And it sounds like it's legal. And tax is one of them. When you earn money, you're paying income tax. When you buy something like a computer, you are paying VAT on that, which is another form of tax. When you save your money and you sell, for example, a property in a couple of years from now on, because of this, after you've paid income tax and capital gains tax in some cases, then now suddenly you're going to pay capital gains tax. If you die, you're going to pay estate duty tax. And then the worst tax of it all will be inflation. Because if you try to save your money, you have to save that money in terms of the energy input that you've done, which, by the way, 99.9999% of the poor people do not understand what I'm saying at the moment. You have to preserve that just to save your current money and situation where you are after taxation. And you're going to find that very few people, except the rich, can do that and know how to do it because they've invested in themselves. Do you know that if you can take and have a skill that where you take, say, for example, 100 Rand, and you can reinvest that 100 Rand at 100%. Now, the poor will immediately say it's not possible. But the rich knows that it's possible because that's why they're doing it. So the 100 becomes 200. You take the 200, 400, 400, 800. If you do this for 20 years without taking anything out, or there's any taxes payable, you'll have 104 million, and you can go and do the calculations. Now, if you're in a 30% marginal rate, right? In other words, I've got a job, and I'm paying 30% on any additional income that I'm making. And you start speculating or trading Forex or cryptos or in the stock market. That then becomes income. So now it's income tax. On that portion in the beginning, you have to add that to your current income. So if you're at the 30% marginal rate, it means if you earn 100 Rand, you have to declare that, pay 30 Rand of that 100 Rand, sitting with 70 Rand. The 70 plus 100 gives you 170. You keep on doing this just from an income tax point of view and just at the 30% marginal rate. At the end of 20 years, instead of 104 million, you're going to sit with 4 million. That's the difference between the rich and the poor. 104 million versus 4 million. And then the 4 million people don't understand why the heck they're not getting it. Do you know that you never have to pay capital gains tax? You never have to pay estate duty tax. You can legally pay the minimum income tax. All of this is possible on condition that you are prepared to take the responsibility to learn it, how the skills work. You don't have to implement it. Someone else, like an auditor, is going to implement that for you, or an attorney. But you need to know it, because they're not going to do it, because they're not really working for you. You think they're working for the system because they've been conditioned by the system to think like the system. They are not conditioned to think like the rich. Of course, there's the exception to the rule. But most of the time, poor people will not get access to the exception of the rule. So if I could summarize today, we're going to find that to achieve wealth is actually very straightforward. All you have to do is to follow the habits of the rich and avoid the habits of the poor. My friend, the choice is always, always yours. Make the right choice. And then I'll see you in the next one.